Ladies and gentlemen, seekers of light and secret knowledge wherever you may be, you are listening to Points of Light Radio, the podcast dedicated to taking you past the apron and behind the closed doors of lodges everywhere. And here is your host, Stan Miller.
Greetings, brothers and sisters. Shalom, assalamu alaikum, ad nastana. As always, it's a pleasure to be back with you here on Points of Light Radio and continuing our journey of light and knowledge. And in today's segment, we will be continuing that journey by once again looking at the history of fraternalism. And I came across an organization during some of the research I've been doing for Points of Light Radio. I came across this interesting and defunct fraternal order. It's called the Ancient and Noble Order of Bucks. And ancient, it was spelt the old English way, I guess you could say, of A-N-T-I-E-N-T, right? But the Ancient and Noble Order of Bucks was a fraternal and convivial, or fun-loving, club formed in the 1720s in London, England. There's not a whole lot known about this organization, but I had a lot of fun researching them. As you'll see, they do sound like they were a very fun organization to belong to. I mean, at their core, the order's identity was tied to its profound motto, and that motto was, "Unanimity is the strength of society." Right? Now, this organization, like I said, the more I delve into it, you'll see how interesting and fun-loving it really was. I can't wait to bring this to you. But as I always ask you, are you still thirsty for knowledge? Are you still searching for the light? Then you just trim your lamp and follow me, because we're going to have a bit of fun here. You're going to see this. Now, the Ancient and Noble Order of Bucks, the exact dates of its founding, like many of the ancient orders, is not fully known, but it is believed that the organization had its roots somewhere in the 1720s. Now, as part of its biblical narrative, the club claimed the mighty hunter and Mesopotamian king mentioned in Genesis 10, 8, and 9, as well as other places, as their founder. So let's read Genesis 10, 8, and 9. And Cush begat Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. So it must have been some saying back when Genesis was written. Now, although the order of Bucks anchored their lineage in the ancient tales of Nimrod, their activities in the real world diverged from such lofty origins. The Ancient and Noble Order of Bucks in reality was more like a gentleman's drinking club than a sober religious or philosophical organization. The Order of Bucks meetings were characterized by boisterous gatherings where rowdy parties were the norm rather than the exception. I love this. Why don't we know how to have fun like this anymore? Now, as I mentioned earlier, at the core of the Order of Bucks' identity was their motto, "Unanimity is the strength of society." This wasn't just a catchphrase, but a guided principle that encapsulated their spirit of fraternity, unity, and mutual uplifting. The Order of Bucks prioritized convivial gatherings or fun gatherings, emphasizing the essence of brotherhood and shared joy among its members, probably brought on by a lot of booze. Now, the society's reputation for wild revelry wasn't always viewed as favorable, even by its own members. A notable instance from the 1770s captured this sort of sentiment. A member known only as Hurl was disillusioned by the behavior he witnessed and distanced himself from the Bucks. In 1781, Hurl channeled his disdain for the uncouth behavior, as he put it, of his former brethren and established the Ancient Order of Druids. Interesting, eh? Where these things get their genesis. Now, Hurl believed that the Ancient Order of Druids enshrined values that seemed a direct response to the excesses of the Bucks. He explicitly prohibited members from indulging in profanity or engaging in political discourse. Isn't that interesting? There must have been a lot of talk about politics in Bucks meetings, right? Now, like many fraternal orders, the Bucks wore regalia that was rather impressive. The Grand Buck himself wore a star of silver on which was figured, as they put it, a buck and passant pennant to gold ribbon with the motto, "Freedom with innocence," being so it was said, the emblem of the state of early days and most valuable jewel of civil society. The two deputy bucks each wore a silver medal, a buck pennant to a blue ribbon, and the deputies' faces looking towards the Grand Buck as if receiving orders from him. This was a token of their readiness to execute his pleasure. The medal had this motto, "We obey." Now, records state that the four Rangers wore the emblem of the plow pennant to the green ribbon with this motto, "Industry produceth wealth." This was a token of the vast advantage of agriculture and commerce. The secretary wore what was called the crosspins pennant to a blue ribbon. And I've shown you an example of their ribbon and pennant system here. The two keepers wore small bugle horns over their shoulders from the right to the left. The green silk twist with this motto, "Be merry and wise." Yeah, well, with all the alcohol in their system, I'm sure they were merry, but maybe not so wise. The chaplain had no distinguishing regalia. Well, I wonder why that was, right? The 8 foresters wore the emblem of the old man teaching his sons the value of unanimity by the fable of the bundle of sticks, which was a pennant to a green ribbon, and the motto, "Unanimity is the strength of society." So they really seem to roll a lot with that motto of unanimity. Now, unlike the Freemasons, who predominantly opted for metal badges, the Bucks exhibited an affinity for ceramic tokens or badges. Now, the badges weren't just decorative, you can see some of them here, but symbolic. They often carried deep-seated meanings related to the values and beliefs of the Bucks. For instance, one recurring emblem found on these ceramic tokens is the depiction that I mentioned earlier of an elder enlightening the younger generation about unity through the allegory of that bundle of sticks I mentioned. Now, such symbols provide a window into the hierarchical and cultural nuances of the order. For example, there's one specific emblem that is linked to the forester's rank within the order. Now, the forester's rank was a position that followed the Grand Buck and the Deputy Grand Bucks and the Rangers in the pecking order. So there was a hierarchy, or almost like we have today in today's lodges, officers within. It played a very important part, by the looks of things, in the Bucks, right? Now, further cementing the order's historical presence are the records of their chapters. I found two. The one I'll mention here is a prominent chapter that was in the heart of London. It was at a place called the Turk's Head Tavern, which was a well-known establishment on Gerrard Street in Soho. Not sure if it's still there. Enlighten me if it is, brothers and sisters. Now, this served as the hub for the Bucks. Now, in this pub or tavern, members would gather, likely indulging in rich conversation about the teachings of Nimrod, the importance of unity, and the events of the day, all while proudly donning their ceramic badges and undoubtedly drinking copious amounts of beer and spirits. Now, the ancient and noble order of Bucks began in the 1720s and persisted through the 1820s. However, the zenith of their influence was between the 1760s and the 1770s, right? In their heyday, however, the ancient and noble order of Bucks stood as a significant rival to Freemasonry in Great Britain. And that says something about, right, how this organization managed to hold its own, at least for a while, right? Little is known about the demise of the ancient and noble order of Bucks or the circumstances surrounding it. There you have it, brothers and sisters. The ancient and noble order of Bucks. What did you think? I mean, I'll tell you, I couldn't help but laugh the entire time I'm researching this particular organization. I had a good laugh. I mean, I can just picture what their meetings were probably like. I mean, sometimes we have a little bit of a good time after a meeting's over in our lodges, but this group, it sounds like it sounds to me in many ways that they had a good time, but still got a lot of work done, shall we say. Some things I gathered as I researched this is in a hard and brutal time, some of the hardest and most brutal times in human history, the ancient and noble order of Bucks weren't just there to sell insurance or be a mutual benefit society. This was just a group of gentlemen that liked to get together for a good time in a very tough and brutal world. Let's never forget. I mean, 1720s, right? Can you imagine? I mean, and it lines up with some of the findings you saw here on Points of Light Radio. Lodges were places in part of entertainment, all right? And that's really something. And it also tells you something else. The fact that this group, in its heyday, actually rivaled the Freemasons, who were in many cases still much better organized than they were. It tells me that this was a group, an organization that really found a place in the hearts of its members. I mean, they looked forward to going, and like I said, it wasn't just about getting away. They seemed to have a good time. They really did. I mean, and it's a lesson for us today at our lodges. Maybe we do need to lighten up a bit. I mean, if not during our meetings afterwards, I'm not condoning any type of debauchery, but I mean, maybe we do need to lighten up, at least after the meeting's over, right? And a little bit of fellowship, because that sounds like what these guys really, maybe alcohol induced fellowship, but still, right? But it sounded like it must have been a lot of fun being there. I mean, now, and do you know of any such societies today? I mean, I do know we have groups that like to get together and have a good time, but anything like this, right? If you do, please let me know, right? I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I did studying it. I really did. But before I go, I want to remind you that this podcast is available on both YouTube and Spreaker. Please share, like, and subscribe when viewing Points of Light Radio on YouTube. I also welcome your comments and input. I want to see some comments actually on this one, right? You can follow Points of Light Radio on my Facebook page at facebook.com/Points of Light Radio. My X handle is at PO Light Radio. You can see the link to my Spotify channel, as well as my Points of Light Radio store. Brothers and sisters, it's been a pleasure bringing you this podcast. And until we meet again, just step into the light.